What's up, everybody? Josh Armijo here. I hope everybody's doing good and well and stuff. I got an album review to do for you, and I'm going to be talking to you about the new album from the band Raspberry Bulbs, entitled Before the Age of Mirrors. This is released on Relapse Records. Now, if you're not too familiar with this band, they are based out of New York City, New York, and the best way to describe the sound of this band would be a very primitive, raw, punk-influenced style of black metal. Yeah. My first introduction to this band was their 2011 debut full-length, Nature Tries Again. And of course, I'll never forget when I first watched my very good friend JGC Sound do a review for this band, and upon watching his video and getting to get more introduced to what Raspberry Bulbs was about, I was very mesmerized. By the way, shout out to JGC Sound. You're still the man all these years later. But yeah, getting back to Raspberry Bulbs, that album was really, really cool. Primarily done by one person, He Who Crushed His Teeth, aka Marco Del Rio. He pretty much did all the music, all the vocals, all the instrumentation, and it had this really, really low fidelity kind of style going for it, which made things all the more intriguing. And of course, that album was something very special. But then, of course, upon getting to know more about Raspberry Bulbs, of course, I was led on to the demo material that this band did, like Finally Burst with Fluid, Lone Gunman, Dust in the Fallen Face. Just some really killer stuff. But ever since those demos and this full-length album, first full-length that came out, Raspberry Bulbs has morphed into a more fleshed-out, full sort of lineup. Not only with just the main guy behind this band, but the inclusion of other notable people. I should also say that the other albums that Raspberry Bulbs have put out have been nothing short of spectacular, with 2013's Deformed Worship and 2014's Privacy. Both of those albums are very good and special in their own right, but getting back to the main people behind this band, of course, if you know Marco Del Rio, you may know him probably best for his work with the band Bonal. That's another really awesome black metal band that toes the fine line between black metal and punk and other sort of miscellaneous influences. Just a really great band in its own project. Another great band in its own right. But you also have the inclusion of a guy by the name of Nick Forte, whom you probably may know best for his work as a guitar player with the band Rorschach. Of course, if you know Rorschach, they are a very, very influential and legendary hardcore punk band out of New Jersey. Very famous, very influential, and very important. And I believe his involvement in the band makes things a little bit more intriguing and a lot more fluid. But it's been quite a long time since we had heard anything from Raspberry Bulbs up to that point, going back to 2014 with Privacy. And now we have the fourth full-length from Raspberry Bulbs entitled Before the Age of Mirrors. It's 12 tracks, and it clocks in at around 38 minutes in length, and if I'm not mistaken, this is probably the longest Raspberry Bulbs album to date, because everything prior to this was a pretty short affair. But this time, we get a lengthier album, and with a lengthier album, you get a little more depth and detail with this band style and sound. And if you're already familiar with Raspberry Bulbs sound, you already know what you're going to be in for here with an album like Before the Age of Mirrors. And I definitely think this is Raspberry Bulbs doing Raspberry Bulbs things. And it's a very, very intriguing and entertaining combination going on here. The thing that makes this album stand out a lot, like its predecessors, is the fact that there is a lot of killer riffs going on here throughout this entire album. Listening to tracks like They're After Me, Doggerel, Reclaim Church, you just get a lot of creativity going on with these riffs. You get a lot of black metal influence, you get a lot of punk influence, and it's just something that holds your attention throughout the majority of this album. Of course, you get some really well-detailed bass work going on here too. A lot of grit, a lot of great edge when it comes to the bottom end of this record. It's just really, really good. The drumming on here is very, very good. You definitely get a little bit of that punk sort of mentality going on here with this drum performance. It's very fast-paced, it's very gritty, it's very raw in nature, and I love the details going forward with this drum performance here. And when it comes to the vocals, you get a lot of aggressiveness going forward with this vocal style. You get a lot of shouted vocals, a lot of aggressive screams. You just get a lot of emotion and passion coming from this guy, and he definitely does a tremendous job here in terms of doing the vocal performance that he does here and weaving the stories going forward here. And another thing to point out about this record is the fact that this has some interludes that lead up to certain tracks, whether it be some slight, small instrumentation to just some sort of atmosphere moments. I think it's interesting that he include that these interludes are added to this record. I don't know if it makes any sort of a difference or not, but I definitely think that they work out quite well here. But the main story of Before the Age of Mirrors is the music, and I definitely think every song on here gets the job done. So overall, if you're a fan of raw punk and black metal mixtures, Raspberry Bulbs will get the job done for you with this new full-length album. I don't know if I want to say it's their best work. I obviously have a little bit more leanings towards Nature Tries Again and probably Deformed Worship. The first two records are incredible, by the way. But yeah, new Raspberry Bulbs is sick, and if you're a fan of what this band has done, I think you're going to have something to enjoy here with this one. So, if I had to think of any personal favorite tracks, I would definitely have to say Spitting from on High, They're After Me, Doggerel, Reclaim Church, and the closing track, Given Over to History, is a very good way to end this record too. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you some links in the description box as to how you can get a hold of this album and listen to it. I will leave you a link to the Raspberry Bulbs Bandcamp page where you can listen to this album in its entirety, hear it for yourself, and be your own judge as to whether you think it's worthy of being purchased or not. You can stream it, buy it digitally, and it is available physically as a CD and 12-inch vinyl. So yeah, again, the album is Before the Age of Mirrors by Raspberry Bulbs. This is released on Relapse Records. Definitely check this one out. And for a score, I'm going to give this a pretty solid 8.5 out of 10. Very solid black metal punk stuff. If you've happened to have heard this album, definitely let me know what you think about it and how you feel about it, and we can go from there. Or any of you guys into Raspberry Bulbs, definitely let me know. I'm going to conclude this review. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for checking out my channel. Until next time, Army out.